Welcome to the Private Practice Pro podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping therapists cultivate success. Here's your host, Kelley Stevens.
This podcast is sponsored by Simple Practice. I've been using Simple Practice since 2016, which has helped me run a smooth and profitable private practice over the years. It has simplified everything from scheduling to billing, giving me a better balance between the work I'm so passionate about and the family time I'm not willing to miss out on. Check out the episode notes to get a free 2-month trial of Simple Practice, my preferred all-in-one HIPAA-compliant solution. So, Stassi and I are already here. Welcome back to the Private Practice Pro podcast. We finally had to just push record because we just want to get into it and talk about all things Stassi. So for anyone who's listening to this, this is part of a series. So Stassi Betcher is an incredible therapist who is not only successful in her private practice, but also dipping into the world of online courses, building a following, selling online products, workshops, kind of like taking your business outside of the one-to-one. And so if you're listening to this podcast right now, I actually would suggest you go back because this is a series and you listen as Stassi like takes her journey through Instagram, through the whole world of building content. So go back. And today is a check-in where we're going to talk about making money on Instagram, burnout on Instagram, how the hell we're both doing this.
Yes.
And we didn't plan this episode. So let's just talk about it. So first of all, Stassi, I just want to say, like from the first episode, I was thinking about what we did in the first episode. You had, I don't know, 500 followers or something. And I was looking at your Instagram today and you're like at 5,000 something or more. I don't even know.
It's not like we've gained 5,000 since November.
And yeah, so since November, it is now when we're recording this episode. I don't even know what day it is. It's February.
It's the 6th or something. It's February, early February.
So we're talking like 3 months, right? Which is crazy growth. Like that, even in like a lot of the people I know and work with, like don't grow that fast. So, and I really attribute to that, to just the fact that you're really good at speaking to, I think, the pain points of like to be really on, like you get really specific about different pain points of your ideal client. So, which I think is people like, I know for me, I think I'm your ideal client. So like there's so many times when I see myself and I'm like, oh my God, Stassi, I needed to hear that.
Everyone, that makes me feel good.
So
it's silent. It's not always silent. I have a few people who are like always circling in my little DMs now, but it's like, even with 5,000 people, I have like 8 DMs a day, like it's not a lot. And so it's a very, very silent that I'm assuming people are getting something out of this because I think it's actually valuable what I'm saying. But I have to be really confident in that. Or if it's like shitty content that I'm just like throwing out there, like I assume people don't like it because like you have to have a really strong ego.
Gotta have a thick skin.
Self-assured or something like it's kind of altruistic. I go, someone's going to need this. Even if not everyone needs this, like I get really altruistic about it or it just, I couldn't do it. You couldn't move forward because it is so silent all the time.
It does get louder. So
right?
Like interesting, like when we check in next. So when we were off camera, you said 2 things. You said, girl, I'm reaching burnout a little bit, number 1. And number 2, I'm not making any money doing this yet. So I said, why don't we talk about those 2 things? So what are we going to start with?
Let's start with burnout. So, I mean, and there's like a context. Okay. So like I just had my son turn 1. So I'm a mom. He stays at home. So everything that I'm doing on Instagram is in between the cracks of parenting. And I I'm very intentional about not having my phone out when he's awake. So like it is happening in between 2-hour naps, which is an intense thing. I'm a therapist, I have 16 clients a week. And so this is just like, this week I've just been like, I already knew this, but a lot this week I've just been like, I created another 40-hour-a-week job. Like somehow I stumbled into a 40-hour-a-week job again, like where I'm doing 2 jobs plus motherhood, plus, parent illness or whatever else is happening in my life.
Right.
Like, so burnout is not just about Instagram. If I was just managing Instagram, it would be fine. It'd actually be a piece of cake, I think.
Right.
But it's like all these moving parts together. And like to add, 2 weeks ago, my son was admitted to the hospital. And he's fine. It's like it's an asthma thing. But like I didn't feel pressure to post or like be a part of it. It gives you perspective about what's important in your life. And like you just keep moving forward, like that rushing woman thing where it just keeps happening. And then like this week, real client stuff is happening. I'm having parent meetings that are kind of intense where parents want to double check that like therapy's worth it. And you're like, I can't prove that, right? Like that's the actual real stressor. And then I have to get on Instagram and do like education stuff. But if I was just a therapist and like if that's all I was doing, it would be so much easier to manage those feelings. So this is like where all the things moving all at once is contributing to like, this is exhausting. And this is Instagram is the thing I could take away, right? That's the thing I could go, well, that I could get rid of that tomorrow. So those are the pieces. I saw a meme yesterday or a reel yesterday of a marketer who was like, knowing that you might make sales one day, and she was holding like a tripod and a cell phone, and she had her hand, or she was laying flat on the floor with her face down and was like army crawling to like try to say, I have to go make more content. I was like, that's what I feel like. That's the feeling. So,
oh my God. Okay. So first of all, I can totally relate to this. Like, let's just take solutions off the table for a second. Like, literally, I was sending you the link to this podcast on my way home. I might have been driving when I sent it. I have a young child at home too, and it's brutal. Like, I literally was voice memoing Amanda, who's on my team. She's awesome. Like, how am I gonna do this? Like, how am I gonna do all these things? So I don't know. I guess I just want to validate that. Like, I'm there too. I'm not coming to you like, oh, I know how to do this thing. I'm like, maybe I need help too.
That's the thing is like, and like, my account was for like rushing women who are doing too much. And that's me. That's you, right? Like we know these pain points because it's very easy to say yes to stuff. And be like, yeah, I'll get it done. And we do get it done. And like, there is a consequence on the actual human being that's doing all the things. And I have really big resistance to like canceling something or moving something or acknowledging that there's limits, like that. I don't want to do any of that. I want to keep doing what I want to do. This is a phase that like yesterday was a rough day and like I was ready to burn out. And today, like, I got it. Like I'm on Kelley's podcast. No big deal.
Right. Hey, let's be on a podcast today.
So fine.
So, okay, I guess my first question is, do you have to make money doing this anytime soon? I'm not saying you don't. Yeah. I'm really genuinely asking.
I mean, I would like to. I think like so this week is the first week I planned out content early. Like everything up into the last 3 months of growth has been on the fly. And like, okay, I'll create this reel in between naps and they happen to connect with people because I'm just like naming stuff, but it's not intentional. It's like, it's kind of intentional, but like, it's not purposeful and slow. So Sunday I spent 5 hours creating content, 5 hours working. Content was a little bit of it. I had to catch back up on my notes. There's like a lot of things going on. And I left, I went back downstairs after 5 hours and like hung out with my son. And I was like, I'm not getting paid for this. Like I was like annoyed being like, self-employment sucks. Like someone else could pay me for this. Like if I was clock hours, nobody's going to pay me for this. So there's a part of me that wants it so that I can go see it's worth the thing. We used so much money for in our savings for maternity leave last year that like I would love to go. We're replenishing it. Like I honestly think Instagram is the kind of like it's got. I don't want to. It's my like lottery ticket a little bit like that. Mm-hmm. Like I could get something out of this if I do it. I don't know what I'm thinking, but I watch influencers do this all the time. Like, I could get money out of this, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's not immediate. It's not necessary. And that I'm like hoping that there's like a promise that that's showing up somewhere.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, so I agree. I mean, I think, first of all, you do reach a certain point where it's like, if you aren't getting money for your time, it's not worth it. Yeah. Obviously. I don't think you're at that point yet, if I'm being super honest with you. You know, totally. I think like, if it were me, I would look at, like, I always tell people, like, I didn't even start making money until I was around 10,000 followers. And then it was a process, you know? So, and that's just me. Everybody's different. I know that there are smaller influencers that do make money at lower, you know. So also but you're also not selling anything right now, are you?
I'm not selling anything right now. I have a course that I did last year that's all recorded that could potentially be in a digital store. I can start figuring stuff out. That makes me like anxious. Like, actually, like, there's a part of me that's avoiding that, you know, like oh, let them, you know, like, I don't want to be that miserable. And there's a purpose, you know, like that there's eventually this is the goal, is to start doing stuff like that. And I do know that like the 10K number is what you've said multiple times.
Right. I mean, and it's not some magic number, right? Like, you could launch your course earlier. And people do it all the time. And even like on the comments of this episode, I'm sure we'll get people who are like, you don't need to wait till 10K.
Right.
I personally think that there's huge benefit in waiting to really know your audience, to give yourself time. But I think that means finding a way to make Instagram more sustainable for a while, you know? And I think like you've seen some really quick growth. I mean, you've seen really quick growth on your page. And so I think there can be that pressure to like maintain that growth that quickly. And I do think, you know, because you've seen quick growth, I do think, you know, you launch a course, whatever, it's going to be profitable. But I do think it's like Instagram is a long-term investment. You know, I think it's like, we think it's not, but like I do. So I think, you know, we could talk about how to make
it out like in 5 or 7 years. Like in my head, it is a really long game that this is like,
I don't mean that long. I'm talking like a year.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear it. But like, when I'm like really rolling it in, I will, you know, like if I really could be, my dream would be, and this is very vulnerable, please nobody come at me, is like the Birds Papaya. Like, let me like, fuck yeah,
I love her.
I fucking love her. Right. She's like my dream. I want to interview her on my podcast. I would die if that kind of happened. And like, that's where I want to kind of like have this role into, is like that I'm being myself for sure, but like it's also a persona of personality that's showing up.
Of course, and
that's kind of where I want it to go. Like, how much money is she making? She's making so much money.
You should ask her.
I know.
I feel like that'd be a good podcast episode for your podcast. The question I actually had when you mentioned her, we'll tag her in the show notes because she's great, is how long has she been doing it?
She's been doing it she started, I can't remember exactly. I think like 2010 she probably started, but she always kind of references like 7 years before she got big. She mentions that a lot. Like that she was doing it for a long time before it became like a well-oiled machine. And so I like try to slow down and go like, that's the goal here, is not to like get a shit ton of, I don't know what to do with these followers. I'm barely figuring out what I'm doing or how to make, like, to how to even make content, right? So it's, there is like a lot of learning to happen as I'm doing this. And there's just like especially with what I'm doing, which is like adding my story. Like, I decided in November, the mental health account was not for me, because I could not just say like, this is what overfunctioning looks like. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
That I needed to go, hey, I'm an overfunctioner, and this is what it sounds like, and this is what it looks like.
100%. I'm convinced, Stassi, that that's the reason you've grown so quickly.
Oh my
God, 100%.
Because
it's you. When people come to your page, they get you. Yeah. And I don't think if you had done like the traditional mental health account, like that it would have grown in the way that it did. I just wouldn't. You know? Yeah.
And I think even the reels that have gone viral, I have one that has 2.3 million or something views, right? Like, that's the one that is like, I couldn't make that reel without being self-reflective, going, this is what I was feeling in that moment. and to be able to relate so well. And I told a story about myself, not women feel X, Y, and Z. Nobody will connect to that. I feel this way, and people go, I get her. And so there's a
they want you. They love you.
They do. I love that. And it makes me feel really good. And as a therapist, there's a little level of discomfort of like, how much do I share? Right. Like, and so I need to learn, like, I do think I need a year or so to figure out what felt good to share, what didn't feel good to share, and not have 500,000 people staring at me while I'm figuring that out. You know, like, so it doesn't bother me that like we're at where we're at and we'll keep building. And
you're at an amazing point.
Yeah.
I just got to say, like, where you're at for 3 months in is nuts.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've listened to our first episode, but you're like, you know, I mean, you should go listen to it because you were in such a different place than you are now. You know?
In November, if I would have said, like, if you would have said, hey, you'll have 5,000 followers by February, I would have laughed at you. In November, I got 500 followers. And I remember thinking, this feels legitimate. 300 felt like friends and family. 500 feels like people are listening to me. Like that was like, it felt like, okay, now I can
you're at 10 times that now. Am I good at math? I don't
even know. Yeah. We're so good at math. Don't even worry about it.
We're great at math. I mean, yeah, Stassi, I think you're at an amazing place. So I think it's two things. One, it's being able to take the money question out of it for a little bit longer. And then two, you got to find a way to continue without burning out. So, you know, that means a lot of different things. Oh, yeah. Tell me, what have you outsourced?
So one, we mentioned Hannah in the second episode, the last episode with Brad. She is willing to talk to other people. Like when I said, hey,
amazing.
So I gave your producers her information.
Awesome.
KW Productions on Instagram. People go find her. She's in
send me the link. We'll put her in the show notes.
Yeah, I could not do this without her. So we meet weekly and talk about content. So outsourcing that, like that I can talk really, like even the things you posted about episode 1, I was like, oh, I didn't know that about myself. Like I had forgotten. Self-awareness comes in and out real fast. Like boom, boom, like we move so fast. And so to have someone listen to you and go, hey, this is really important. That like, and she is my ideal client, so she's able to go back and ask questions. She asks follow-up questions. Like it's so amazing to like get to what we actually need to be sharing. So that's amazing. I couldn't do that. It wouldn't. There would be no growth. There would be nothing happening without her. And my authentic piece is the other piece. Like these two things together is making a really nice thing. And then we added a person to help me with building social media. So I'm still not skilled enough at Reels to outsource that. Like I'm still doing that. Like the creative process for me is like putting the pictures together and then creating the words as it's happening. I'm not writing it as they're all being like line 1, line 2, line 3. And if I could, I'd give that to Caitlin.
Right.
But she's doing all my stories. And the other thing I think is really successful is that like we're slowing down stories and instead of captions, it's like word boxes so people can really, really read what's happening. And I think people are invested in me because they're not skipping over captions. They're listening. They're reading the things.
Yeah. And you had brought that up last time that you felt like an influencer that you followed did that. And I think that you're right. So does having outside help put pressure on you to make money because you're paying them?
I added one client. One extra client to pay for Caitlin to do my stories, and it hasn't exceeded my hourly fee yet, so I feel good about more. So it doesn't feel like too much pressure. I truly, it's like my own personal finances, right? Like that I lost so much money being self-employed and going on maternity leave. Like that is yucky, and I'd like. There is an urgency to get it back, but there is, I'm also terrified of how much I owe in taxes. Like there's a lot of things happening that like I would love to cash in. And I also know this isn't like, that's not realistic, right? Like, so I'm not like trying to find spaces exactly to do that yet, but like sustaining all of this is hard. So this is the first week I filmed stuff in advance and Caitlin is sending to me and I get to post it casually, which is which is actually really helpful. But now I want to do it like a month in advance. I want to do filming one day, and then I don't think about it for the rest of the month, and I don't know how to do it. Like that's not where we're at. You know, like I'm not even close to.
What if you just tried to do it once a week? Do you have like? Could you block out an hour a week to film reels?
Yes.
Because maybe
so like that's what we did. So my son went to the hospital on a Wednesday. What ended up like instead of doing what we were supposed to do on that Monday, which is okay, we're going to start talking about overfunctioning. Hannah said, "Hey, I think we need to talk about if you're comfortable, I think you should talk about the hospital. I'm not a mom yet, but I want to know what you brought to the hospital. I want to know how you talked to doctors. I want to know what was important to you and what are the follow-up appointments. Like, I want to know that stuff." So I went, okay, sure, I'll share that stuff. Like that does not feel uncomfortable for me. So so I had all this other plans of overfunctioning. I said, okay, well, I'll record all the stuff for the overfunctioning. Like, so last week was super busy. Like today on Instagram right now, I'm saying I'm doing boudoir photos. That was last Wednesday. So like I recorded all this stuff for that. And I'm now posting it this week. And so we said, okay, we'll just record a bunch of content throughout the week about how busy I am. And I'll just save it for next week. So now we have this like little buffer where each week maybe we're doing this like we accidentally got to get ahead of the game. Hopefully that's sustainable. Hopefully that's the thing we're doing. So we have content all planned for next week, and sometime this weekend I'll like do the recordings of all that and then send it off again. Hopefully.
How much are you posting each week?
When it was on the fly, it was probably 3 reels a week and then stories every day, typically. And now, like this week, with the planning, we have significant stories every day, educational stories every day. That's done. I mean, like this is what we're doing. This is what we're talking about each day.
Right.
And this week, I think I have 4 or 5 reels planned. I think I have 5 reels if I haven't completed a couple of them, but if I wanted to.
So just thinking out loud, I mean, look, like your son was in the hospital last week. I know like when my son had RSD,
2 weeks ago,
or 2 weeks ago,
it's a
week delay.
It's still really recent. I just want to say I'm not like a crazy person.
No, I get it. But I guess, what if you just gave yourself a whole week of no content and just got another week ahead? Get 2 weeks ahead.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal. I would love that.
Because like you could just not post for a week, or you could post a photo of you and your son at the park. I mean, not every single post has to be educational, you know? Like you're going to and not every single reel has to be great. And not every single story has to have the boxes perfectly lined up. You know, I mean, I think if you could give yourself a whole week off of actually the pressure to post, like you could still post if something came up and it was going to take you 5 minutes to do it.
Right.
Or just a story of like, hey, here I am, here's what I'm doing today. No. But like the actual like thinking, scheduling, I wonder if it might benefit from a week off. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to lose a ton of followers or anything like that if you don't post for a week.
And like I was dealing with that, like on Monday I had therapy and I hadn't seen her since the hospital. So we like really processed that. And I was like, I just want to hide in a cave. Like, I just want to like go in a cave with my little family and just like experience them and love them. And I truly thought with Instagram, like I really processed that being like, am I anxious that I'm like going to like lose momentum? I'm not anxious at all about that. Like there's not even, I don't have any worry about it. And as a rushing woman, you just keep doing, you're not slowing down going, hey, like, let me think about that a little bit more. How can I take care of myself? Usually we go, yeah, I know. But like, I'm just going to get the shit done. And I think that's the mode I'm in. And I
think you need a break.
I do need a break.
I need a break too.
5,000 followers. Yeah, you want to go find? Do you want to just swap houses? You can come hang out in Portland, and I'll go down to San Diego.
No, because there's a toddler at your house.
No, I'll take.
I want to go somewhere with no toddler.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be in Mexico.
Yeah, that's what I want. I am actually going tomorrow to Minnesota to see my aunt. And I'm going with just my dad. And I'm sure we're staying in like the Marriott or something. And it's just me and him. And I'm sure it's going to be freezing. But I cannot wait. We're going for 4 days. I'm so excited to just be in a hotel with my computer and the TV.
I know.
And that's it. And my dad, who is like easy, you know? I need a break. So, I mean, we all need a break. And I don't have any posts saved. I don't have any, like, I mean, I'm sure I will post because, like, I tend to just, like, whatever on the fly. But we all need a break, you know? And I think like what I'm hearing you say is like, you've worked your ass off. Oh, am I allowed to say ass? I guess in my podcast, I'm allowed to say whatever. Over the last 4 months to build this big following. And because it's a marathon, not a sprint, you got to take breaks, dude.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise you are going to burn out, and it's going to take a while to start building income and start leveraging your following. And that involves building your course. And because building a course is a lot of work, you have to build up a big enough bank of stamina in yourself to then have those resources to be like, okay, let's put something together that's for sale. You know, and I would say, why don't you take a break for however long it needs to be, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. And then once you have some of that, like, okay, I got this, you're going to like, now is the time to get started on working on that course, because you're going to be at 10,000 followers before you know it. You know, I mean, we're in the 3 month, like it takes a while to put out a course, even if it's already filmed, you know?
Right.
You know, you got to put it on a website, you got to have sales pages. I mean, there's other things you got to do. So it's almost like you need a little more bandwidth so that you can get ready for the next big push, which is putting out a course.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, like what I was processing this week was like, I don't know if I need, but there's a part of me that wants like a virtual assistant. I'm going to start paying everyone to do everything, right? But like to like, like really, I feel like things are slipping through the cracks in private practice, right? Like that, like, is my business license, like, do I renew that every, like, I don't even know if I renew that every year. Like what, like, like, you know, there's like things that are more important than the thing I'm doing. And Instagram is easier to me to like produce something than go look for an hour at where my business license even would be located in the state of Oregon website. And when is that due? Like there are things that are like genuinely like I need someone to have the pulse on actual like shit while I'm doing this other thing, because I'm the face of it, you know, like nobody else can do parts of this other piece. And again, this is slow, but like, when do you start with virtual assistants? When does that start happening?
Oh, this is a good question. Okay. So first of all, I think it's a balance, right? Like I can remember when I started to have this feeling, and I think of it like there's always like in any company, like a queen bee role. There's a role that no one else can fill. Yeah. And being on camera is one of those roles if you're in like a forward-facing company like this. I also outsource a lot of stuff, but until I started making money, I really tried to only outsource what I had to. Yeah. And what I often outsourced was childcare, because and that like for me, that I wish I could freaking write off my childcare, because that's one of my biggest expenses. Is like I could spend 2 hours explaining to a virtual assistant how to, or I could spend an hour of my time trying to explain it to them and an hour of their time doing it. Or I could have a half an hour of babysitting and I could just sit down and crank it out on my own.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. People keep saying that to me this week. You're the third person to mention childcare. That's a good one.
It's really hard. And I think it's the hardest thing. Like, I know for me, like, so my son's not that much older than yours. He's 2.5.
Yep.
And when he turned 1, it was the hardest birthday for me. Like, it was really hard to let go of him being a baby.
Yeah.
Like,
you said that to me, and I was like, yeah, no big deal. Like, I don't feel anything. And the night of his first birthday, everything, I shattered.
I know. I laid on the floor of my garage and just sobbed. And I remember calling my friend and being like, he doesn't need me the same way. But here's the fucking thing. Toddlers need you way more than babies. Okay? Like, I feel like 2.5 is way harder than 1. And like, I was convinced that he like no longer needed his mommy. And then they start talking and they say, I love you. And they, it's just a whole other thing.
I was like, this is going to be the coolest year. This is the funnest.
It's the coolest.
Like, it's so fun. And what happened to me was I like grieved the fact that one day, like my time is limited. Like one day he won't let me eat him up with kisses. And I sobbed about that. And then I said, Kevin, do you think when he's 30, I could eat him up with kisses? And Kevin said, no. And I cried. I cried. I lost it. I was like, but I want to. And he goes, okay, but not in front of his friends. And then I sobbed more. And I was like, but I want to in front of his friends. And this is not the type of mom I thought I would be. But everything is time limited. And there's this weird dichotomy of like wanting independence for your own life and like grieving that all of this is time limited and that they're always fighting against each other. It's like so weird.
It's so, I mean, this is the hardest thing for me about motherhood. 100%. Like, I like actively try to seek out, like I follow this account on Instagram called grownandflown. I'll tag it. You should follow it. And it's literally for parents of kids who are going to college. Because I had this like total irrational thing about my son going off to college. He's 2.5. Okay. And I love it because they talk like it's about parenting college kids and what you need to do. And I was like, oh, they still need you. Yeah. And like, I also, one of my favorite Instagrammers, Kelly Hampton, she wrote a book called Bloom. So good. Tag that below too. But she always says like, there's more. There's more. And I try to remember that about motherhood. Like there is always going to be more.
Yeah.
Like there just is. And it's going to be different. And there's going to be, but it's so hard. And that transition from one, like after one for me was like, it was the beginning of thinking about where he was going to go to preschool. It was for me, I took a whole year off. So it was like the end of being everyday mom and starting to build my own business and knowing I wanted to build a business that gave me more time with him. But that also meant sacrificing some time. So I had time to build it. And so I did, I think what a lot of us do is I just like rushed. I just like did more and more and more, and I don't necessarily know that that's bad. I mean, I built a company and I love it and it gives me more time to spend with my son and everything. And, I started building this company right around the time he was 1 and now I guess now he's almost 3. So, and I'm glad I did it, but it's a lot,
Hey, therapists. Are you listening to the show and thinking, I really want to launch my own private practice, but I have no idea where to start? Make sure to check out Kelley's Private Practice Roadmap course. In the course, Kelley gives you the exact steps you need to open your own thriving practice. You can find the link below in the show notes.
There's like private practice, which are these listeners are. There is a promise that we know will eventually be successful. It might be like a slow gain, but like you will have clients and that will go through. Instagram is a little bit more of it feels a little more gambly in terms of like what the promise is, I guess, like that, like if I keep hustling here, I think it will go well. I've gotten enough good followers and feedback there that I think that's where I'm heading. And like, you just really don't know, and you don't own it, right? That's the other thing is if Instagram shuts down tomorrow, we did all of this for fun.
Well, so this is something I can't remember if we talked about, but I do think like, the next step when you're ready is building your course and building your email list, like having a lead magnet of some kind.
I have a really great lead magnet that goes into the course. Like it's doing all the things and I'm just going to start talking about it again.
And start building that email list, because you do own that. And so you're right. Like, or repurposing content, putting it on TikTok. I know none of us want to do that, but like, I use this app called Repost. It takes me like 2 seconds.
You were saying that last time. Here's the thing. So I went, there's a brand called Good Influencer and I really love them. It's done by a woman who does like DIYs at home. Chris Loves Julia. All of them are great. Anyways,
I like them.
He talks about, she really helps me actually figure out how to like structure my content, that like stories are exclusive content. You don't put all the education in your reels. That people, so that you create a community that people want to go find you. Anyways, she was. Why did I just bring her up? What was the last thing you just said?
The reposting.
Oh, she said go spend time on TikTok because it's a different vibe. And I started like just becoming a user, being like, okay, what would I do? And I don't think I can take the things I'm doing on Instagram and move it over. Like it is much more, what she described it as, it's more like stories. You're like sitting on stories,
Right.
like that's what people are doing. And so like, it's much more like that. I think I could repurpose my Instagram stories on TikTok. I don't think I could do any of my reels on TikTok. I don't think I don't think they'd be successful. I don't know if that's true. I've never tried, but like,
I think you should try. I don't think it can be the only thing you post on TikTok. Like, you know, but I think that why not? Like if you have like your reels with your husband on the plane, or like, I think all of that could go on TikTok. And like, also you got to remember TikTok is showing you what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So like you really want to go into TikTok and follow other therapists, mom, women like you and see what they're posting. You know, like my TikTok is like kind of like Dr. Pimple Popper shit. You know, like if you're just looking at like what you're looking at, it's showing you what you're, you know, like.
God, TikTok is like I know Instagram's a time suck, but like TikTok is like dangerous.
Yeah. I know. It's like, it is. And I don't tend to spend a lot of time on it because I try to just go and post it. And TikTok is not my main platform. I think, you know, I have like 3,000 followers or something. But I am aware of the fact that like I should probably post on other platforms. But that being said, we're getting off the point of like step one is take a break. You need some sort of buffer. And like maybe step two is like when you go back to creating content, chisel out an hour each week and batch all your reels for that week. Don't try to create them on the fly when you're in the parking lot or whatever, because like that's a recipe for burnout, right? And then it's like step three is starting to push that lead magnet, and step four is starting to think about your course, because you know, before you know it, you're going to be at 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 followers, and you'll be like, shit, I need to like get ready to produce this course, you know?
Yeah.
And it takes a while, you know?
Okay, that's a great idea. And yes, I think those are all right. And I think the break is the first part for sure. I'm like feeling it.
Next to come.
I want to. Also, Kate, like that's the thing is I'm like in other influencers spheres right now. Like I'm subscribed for $24 a month to Good Influencer, and it's all these other like real influencers, not like therapist-y influencers. And there are people who are getting hotel deals and resort deals with 5,000 followers. Like I'm there. How can I get a hotel to take me somewhere and me film it? Like I don't understand.
You could pitch that to a hotel.
You should.
You would need like a brand package and some other things. I can send you mine if you want.
Yes. And then we can do it together, and I'll just say,
if you can be like, we can both go, and then we'll post about it.
Yeah. Post about it.
That being said, I like have never gotten a hotel, but other things I've gotten, clothes and stuff.
The people do.
Yeah.
And the thing is we're both moms, and that shit sells. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
like,
dude. I got a bunch of mom dresses and like,
and like
it was great.
Clothes. Like there are all sorts of things that I feel like I could tap into that I don't know how to, and it might not be time yet. Like there are things.
Yeah.
Like
I'll text you my brand kit. You need like a rates brand kit, you know? And then you like pitch it to companies, or they approach you. After you hit about 10,000 followers, companies also start to approach you.
Okay. And it's not a scam.
Know? Well, a lot of it's a scam. Tons of it's a scam.
Feels like a scam.
If it's coming through your DMs and it's like, hey, girl, I want you to rep my jewelry line.
I know. Like, you get so many long messages. Like, I know you're busy. Shut up.
Oh, my God. It's not that. It's like, hi, Kelley. I've been watching your content for a while. Here's 3 ways that our brands are aligned. I think that it would be great to partner on this specific campaign. Here's our budget. Here's our website. Here's the agent we work with. You know, I mean, it's that kind of thing. And you would come by email, ideally.
Cool. Great.
You know, I mean, sometimes people will DM you, but like, it's not the DMs you're thinking of.
Okay.
And so like in the beginning, you reach out to companies, and like typically the best brand deals are long-term. You know, like it's like the ones where they're like, oh, we'll send you something and you post about it, tend to not be very beneficial for anyone. Like we know that repeated content's important. And so after a while, good brand deals are long-term partnerships, you know?
That's
so whether that means, and that's a really good way.
Powder to pay me. Just pay me, and I drink it every day anyway. Let me just do it on film and be like, so good. And then like put it out.
Here it is. You know, and sometimes like I know for me, I have just like 3 or 4 brand partners that I work with constantly. So like Obviously, Simple Practice is one of those. You'll hear an ad for Simple Practice. And I find that it's good to work with a few companies whose product you like 100%. Like I've used Simple Practice since 2016, since I was a baby therapist. You know, I mean, like I know it like the back of my hand. Yep. I love it. I use it. Like it's a no brainer for me to be like, yeah, this is what I use.
Simple Practice.
You know?
I use it too. Just pay me real quick.
Yeah. I know, love it. Like, look, we all love Simple Practice. Like, it's not, you know, it's an easy one. So it's like, you know, I think it's good to work with a few companies that you really like and to not water down your brand with, like, I know for me, like at this point, I pass up brand partnerships fairly often because I'm like, I don't use that thing.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So like, my husband and I always joke, like, I should have become like you said, like a travel influencer. We would have gotten like my like brands are like EHR, spilling companies, you know what I mean? Like, I don't get any cool swag, you know? Every once in a while, I get a great hat. Like I said, I did get a dress.
I want mugs. That's all I want, you know?
I got so many mugs, girl. I'll send you my mugs. You don't want mugs. You want cash.
No, that's what you said to me the first time. You were like, I want ceramic mugs.
Oh, ceramic mugs, the homemade ones. Yes. Okay. Yeah. For a while, I was doing that. I was like, oh, I'm going to like try to support local potters, you know? And I did that for a while and that was fun. But the reality is like, I have to work with companies that work with therapists.
Have a budget for this too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes I'll rep things that I just love that are like, whether it's a store near me or something, and I'm not charging them. I'm just like talking about them because they're my friends or I love them or, but the companies that I actually make money for, yeah, they have to have a budget to be able to hire you, you know, and that's not always a bigger company. Sometimes, you know, you can get affiliate deals where like you are representing their product and for however many products you sell, you get X amount of dollars. And it, you know, that way you could work with a smaller company because they're not just paying you to post.
Right.
And that kind of thing. But I think I know for me, like I came up with my own guidelines of when I felt comfortable. So like I only ever represent companies that pay therapists a minimum of $100 an hour. I've had plenty of people reach out that don't. You know, like there's got to be your criteria.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, but launch your own product first, you know, like focus on that. And like it's not all going to happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen. You know, I do think Instagram in some ways is like a more of a risk than private practice because we know there's a huge mental health need. We know that if you do the steps that you need to take, you'll have a successful private practice. We know that, you know, it is in that sense. It's one of the reasons I love private practice is because like it's possible. It's not as hard as people make it seem.
No,
I would say in many ways, Instagram, yes, I do believe is more risky. However, I still also believe it's just a series of steps. Like you're building a company and building a company of an online business takes longer than building a private practice, you know, and that's okay. You just have to figure out a way to do it sustainably. It's
with a private practice. I could read a shit ton of blogs. I never did buy courses, but I could have bought courses, right? There was like, there was resources out there. In the Instagram world, you could still kind of do the same thing, but it's all still kind of gatekept, right? Like there's a wall that like you would have to pay a lot of money to like maybe learn it from whatever random influencer space you think you're going to be getting, right? Like this is like there's not it is a series of steps and there's not really an instruction manual. And
there's no online. There are some online courses. The best thing is having friends that do it, dude. Like when we talk, I talk to other friends. Like,
they got to like oh my God, what am I saying? Interview you on my podcast. I'll pay you. Like, you're the person I need to talk to. Like, I was like, please talk to me.
We're friends, dude.
I love that. Thank goodness. And like you have to have people in that space or just one, it's isolating. People in your real world don't get what you're doing and don't particularly.
People have no idea. Like people are like, you do what? Like what's your job?
They're like, I know. They like don't do it or how time consuming it is. And like they're living their lives in the real world. Like,
they're like, why are you on Instagram? It helps so much. Like I have other friends who do this job and the more you work through it, the more you also meet people who do this.
Yeah.
You know? So like, I feel like I'm on so many WhatsApps and stuff now where it's like, I'm doing this for my lead magnet. That didn't work. Oh my gosh, my Reels views are down. What, you know, it's just like meeting people, putting yourself out there, networking with people, being honest. You know, I mean, it's the same way. You know, I think private practice can feel that way when you're first starting out. And I think when you're first starting out in Instagram world, it can feel like people are gatekeeping and you just have to connect with the right people, you know?
And I've had my Instagram account since 2020 and have like tons of people that I have like gone on retreats with and all sorts of things that are now watching the growth and are excited. And it's fun. And I don't know, there's like, now that I'm actually like, there's a kind of well-oiled machine, there's still secrets that you don't, you know, that like, I'm mad that like when a reel's going viral, like I'm like, something's happening. That's all I can say, because I don't know why it's going viral. I don't know why I'm getting so many likes right now. Is it on a discovery page? Does somebody really big share it? Like, you don't get to know what. Yeah,
you don't always know.
Like, there's a little like wizard behind the curtain that you just like have to kind of guess about.
Wizard, aka Instagram algorithm.
Yeah, really,
aka an entire company that's. Yeah, totally.
There was there two topics we were supposed to bring up, or did we cover them? I don't even remember what
we did. We covered that, making money on this and burning out. So what's the plan, Stassi? What are you doing?
Okay, now? So the next time we see each other, I'll have taken a break, which would be really nice. From Instagram. I don't feel like I can. I just don't like, until tax season's over, I don't feel like I can take time off of really making money. So I'm going to keep being a therapist. And hopefully we're going to have more systems. I think the last time I saw you, and I don't listen to the podcast because it makes me nervous listening to myself.
People love your episodes, dude. You need to go listen to them. I love it.
And I think I said, like, I need to outsource. I said, like, by the next time I see you, I'm going to outsource. And we've done that. We've literally, we had Hannah last time. We have Caitlin now. Yeah. It's amazing. And I think now we need to start adding, like, actual systems in place to make, like, it's doing the thing. We were, the first 3 months here was like, could we do it? And we're realizing we can do it. Like, it's doing
You're doing it.
Like, doing so much. Like, none of us thought like, Hannah and I did not think this is what was going to happen. So now that we know this is successful, we need to create systems in place so that it can be sustainable. So I think by the next time I see you, hopefully I say, this is the schedule. This is what it looks like. And this is how it runs. Yeah. And these are the platforms we're on, and like, that would be great. That would be, this is the plan. This is when we want to launch a course. I don't know. Should that be a part of the? Okay, sure.
100%. Let's talk about launching your course. We'll check in about that. It'd be great.
Okay.
All right.
I feel like we're re-record that whole thing, but that's a different day.
I'm re-recording my course right now. Oh my God. Oh, I could talk for a long time about that one.
Okay. Well,
products get updated all the time and it's great. Stassi, thank you so much for being here. Go back and listen to your other episodes. I think you'll be shocked by how far you go. I really do.
I'm sure.
So I'm so thankful you're here, and we'll talk next time.
Thank you.
Ask Kelley Anything is just around the corner. But first, a word from our sponsor. Stay tuned for Kelley's response to your private practice questions.
Therapists, do you want more clients at your full cash rate? Mentaya is a platform that navigates out-of-network benefits for clients. They get clients on average 70% back on therapy by filing claims and chasing down insurance companies. They handle literally everything so that you can focus on what matters. Click the link in the show notes to learn more and get 1 month free using the code PRO. Today's Ask Kelley Anything is for some of you pre-licensed folks out there, but it's also going to apply to some of the licensed people. So let's listen to it.
Hi, Kelley. I'm a big fan of your podcast, and I wanted to ask you for any tips you have for graduate student interns and getting new clients. I'm interning with a group private practice, and while they're obviously helping me get clients, with the summer coming on and just the economy being kind of rough, it's really hard for even interns to get new clients, especially because we have way less experience. So I'd love to hear any tips or tricks that you have for how we can market ourselves and get people comfortable with using interns. Thanks.
All right. So this is a great question. And, I want to remind everyone who's listening to this, different states use different terminology. So here in California, we now use the term associate for when somebody's getting licensing hours after school. And we use the term trainee for when someone still is in school. And then once you're licensed, you're just licensed. During that pre-license time, whether you're still in graduate school or whether out of graduate school, can be a challenging time to get clients, right? Some states will allow you to be in private practice when you're in grad school, some won't. So for the purposes of answering this question, just know your state laws might be different. So we're going to answer this person's question based on their state, right? But know that you have to check in with the laws of your state. So if you are pre-licensed and having to overcome this hurdle of how do you get clients, I think the best way to overcome this is to do some networking with other therapists, whether those therapists are pre-licensed or not, right? Because the reality is pre-licensed therapists can be great therapists too. You bring so much of yourself into the therapy room, right? It's not just the time you've spent in graduate school or doing licensing hours. It's so much more. It's who you are as a person, right? That you're bringing into the room. So a good way to be able to convey that whole personhood to somebody is to sit down and have a meal with them or have coffee with them. So rather than trying to do kind of like some drop-offs and maybe your business card says intern or associate or pre-licensed or whatever your state says, and it can feel impersonal and you might think to yourself, why are people referring to me if I'm pre-licensed or anything like that? I want you to invite some other therapists to lunch and sit with them and just sit with them as a person. Ask them about their businesses. Bring your whole self to it because just because you're pre-licensed doesn't mean you're not of value, right? And so being able to sit with other therapists and realize like, I'm awesome, right? I have things to give to clients and I want to serve my clients. And talking about it in that way can yield referrals. Because at the end of the day, people refer to people, right? They want to send to somebody that feels cozy to them, that they want to sit with, right? So reach out to other therapists. That's my biggest piece of advice, especially going into different low seasons, whether that's summer or the holidays or anything else. We're all busy at different times. So if you know I might not be as busy at this certain time of the year, then make sure to amp up that networking. I hope this helps. If you would like to be featured on Ask Kelley Anything, I love getting listener questions from you guys. Anything about private practice goes. And the best way to do that is actually just to give me a call and leave me a question on my voicemail. So I'm going to tell you the phone number right now and make sure to write it down. Here it is. 805-243-8241. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.